on this video, it's probably because you need help with breastfeeding or you're just being curious, and that's all right too. So let's face it, breastfeeding is not easy. I've done it. It doesn't matter how you feed your baby, breastfed, bottle fed, formula, as long as your baby's fed, that's priority. I worked in labor and delivery, did a lot of breastfeeding teaching. So let's start off with some hunger cues. When do we know when baby's hungry? Do not compare a breastfed baby to a bottle fed baby, because a bottle fed baby a lot of times are on routine every 3 to 4 hours, whereas breastfed babies is more you breastfeed on demand. You breastfeed when your baby's hungry, when your baby starts showing you cues of hunger. So the cues of hunger that the baby might show is they might try to put their fist in their mouth. They might start chewing at their hand. That could be a sign that they're hungry. Another sign is if they start playing with their mouths. So if their mouths start they start going, it's like they're looking to suck, they're looking for something. So that could be a cue that they're hungry as well. You don't want to wait for baby to cry in order to feed the baby. Because if you tell yourself, well, baby's not crying, so baby's not hungry, the baby's gonna learn that crying is what's gonna get him or her the breast. Oh, I have to cry in order for my mom to give me the breast. Well then, I'm gonna cry. And that is something you kind of want to avoid. So there are different positions that you can do. I'm gonna use this little baby here. A common position that a lot of mothers use is the cradle position. So like this. So we have the baby in a cradle position. Another position is football position. So the football position is you literally hold the baby like a football. So you have the baby on the side like this. You're supporting their head, okay? And you literally have them like a football. I find this position is very good for those that have larger breasts. There's also the sideline position. So you lying down like in the bed and the baby is lying next to you and breastfeeding. My experience, the cradle position was the best for me, but everybody's different. Just because the cradle was good for me doesn't mean it'll be good for you. You can try the other positions and the other positions might work better for you. Every mother's different, every baby's different, all breasts are different. So you really can't go by somebody else's experience. The latch is one of the most important parts of breastfeeding. In order for baby and you to be comfortable while breastfeeding, the latch has to be good. I'm gonna introduce you to my breast, not mine. I borrowed it from the OBS department where I used to work. The very important part about breastfeeding is to know that you don't want the baby to only have the nipple in their mouth. You want the baby to also have the areola part as well. So here is where I'm going to show you a bit more in detail. So the areola is technically the whole, this part here, not just the nipple, the whole thing here. When your baby is about to latch, you want the baby to open their mouth nice and wide. If the baby doesn't open their mouth wide enough, they will tend to just grab the nipple and it'll cause a lot of pain and it's going to cause cracking in the nipples, and you don't want that. In order to try to get a good latch, what's very important is rub your baby's nose and mouth, okay, against your nipple. Whenever you're doing that, the baby smells, okay, and they're going to smell the milk. And they say, oh, it's my food, or it's time for feeding. When we eat a hamburger, hamburgers, a lot of times they're pretty large and it's almost too big to put in your mouth. So whenever we have a hamburger, we tend to squeeze it and put it then in our mouth. So we squeeze and right into a hamburger. Same thing for the baby. In order to help your baby latch on, it is very important. What you can always do is actually grab your breast, okay? And you want to shape your hand into like a C, and you want to grab, so you want to place like this, okay? Not just the nipple, but all this part here. okay? And whenever your baby's about to come to latch, you want to just squeeze just a little bit. So when you're squeezing a little bit, you're kind of helping the baby get a good latch. So when your baby opens nice and wide, baby can latch on properly and have the whole areola part, not just the nipple, and you've got a good latch. You don't want to be pinching just the nipple part, okay? Because then they're just gonna grab onto that part and it's gonna be painful. You really wanna have your C shape like this, okay? You know what you can always do is you can always express some milk, or even, okay? You'll see some milk come out, and then baby, oh, I smell milk, or I taste, you put a little bit on their lips, oh, it's time for feeding, and then they tend to open their mouth for you. Whenever your baby is actually latched on, to remove the baby from the breast, it's so important, use your small finger and put your finger in their mouth to break the latch before you take them off the breast. Because if you tend to pull them off, it's going to be extremely painful and it could cause some cracking, and yeah, no fun. As soon as you put the baby on the breast, the baby might close their mouth a bit. So they might just end up just having the nipple, and that happens very often. And you know what? That's okay. All you gotta do is you gotta break the seal, remove the baby from the breast. They will get upset. A lot of times they'll get upset, which is actually good, because when they're crying, their mouth is nice and wide. When their mouth is nice and wide, that's whenever you can actually stick in the whole areola part and get a good latch. Whenever baby's drinking, you want to look and you want to see their jaw. You want to see this. And a lot of times you also hear like a little sound whenever they are actually receiving milk in their mouth. You're going to hear, you know they're swallowing, you know they're receiving milk. So you look at their jawline and you listen for that. If you just see like just sucking and they're not actually drinking milk, they might be using you as a soother. I know. Another big thing about breastfeeding is not all nipples are the same. Some people will have inverted nipples, which could make it a bit more difficult for the breastfeeding. So for those that have inverted nipples, some things that we try to do, you can either take like an ice cube and just place that over your nipple, and it will help stimulate the nipple, which helps the baby latch on more easily. If it just gets too hard and it's really difficult, there are nipple shields at the pharmacies that you can get that can help also with the breastfeeding. That helps with the latch as well. You're not sure if your baby's receiving milk, you're not sure if the baby's having enough, don't worry. There are ways to know if your baby's having enough milk or if your baby's receiving milk. If your baby is peeing, that's a sign that your baby's receiving milk. If your baby is not peeing, that's a sign. That could be a sign of dehydration. So depending on your baby's age, let's say your baby was just born, the one wet diaper is a lot. Whenever it's 2 to 3 days old, it's going to be around 2 to 3 wet diapers as well. It's whenever the baby is 5 days old and up, you're going to want to have at least 6 wet diapers or more. That's what tells you if your baby's getting enough milk. If you are concerned and you're uncertain, contact your doctor, contact your nurse, contact a healthcare professional and ask them. If baby's putting on weight, that's another good sign. You want your baby to be gaining weight. Do not feel pressured that you need to breastfeed because that's what was always considered best. Working in an OBS unit, I did not like, I would not use that, because if a mother did not want to breastfeed, I did not force her to. I respected her decision, and if she wanted to formula feed her baby, well then I helped her with that. It's so important to just respect people's decisions and to not judge them for it. A very important thing to do when feeding your baby milk is to burp your baby. You want to get that air out. An important thing about breastfeeding positions, it's so important for you to be comfortable. Make sure you're well seated, have a snack with you, something to drink, stay hydrated. It's really important for you to take care of yourself as well, because if you're dehydrated, well, it's not going to help with the milk production. You really need to stay hydrated, and you also need to take care of yourself. I know breastfeeding is very demanding, so you tend to forget to take care of yourself, but it's so important to take care of yourself as well, okay? If you are a breastfeeding mom and you are having difficulty, do not hesitate to ask for help. It is totally normal, and do not ever feel ashamed if you feel like you can no longer do it. If you feel like you want to continue, you just need additional help, then seek that help. Get that help. There's help out there, there's support, and they will help you with that. If you feel like you just don't want to do it anymore, then don't. I really hope this video was helpful. I really hope that this taught you something. If you are still hesitant and you still don't know what to do, ask for help. It is so important to ask for help when you need it. So you mamas out there, you're doing an amazing job. Don't forget that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.